Hi there, Millie Welsh of Zebralove Web Solutions. I got a sweet new haircut courtesy of my 11-year-old daughter, and I'm ready to dive in to video 3 in our 4-part series about domain names. Today we're going to be talking about connecting your domain name to your web hosting and your emails. If you haven't seen part 1, which is what is a domain, or part 2, where to register domains, top-level domains explained, and domain tips, then you're going to want to head on over to zebralovewebsolutions.com, click on resources, and learn to see those videos there. Okay, so video 3 is the real meat and potatoes video of the domain series, because we're actually going to go and take your domain name and connect it to your emails and your web hosting. Now, this is the perfect video to watch if you're a DIY person and you're building your own website, or just anybody that just wants to understand the process a little bit more. Now, there's typically 2 scenarios that we run into when we're pointing our domain name to our website. So scenario 1 is where our emails and our web hosting are in the same location. So we only have to point that domain to the one place. So in that case, we're going to change what's called the name servers. And don't worry, because we're going to totally explain what name servers are. And then our second scenario is where our domain emails are going to like Microsoft 365, and then maybe our web hosting is with Zebralove Web Solutions. In that case, we actually have to point the domain name to 2 different places. And in that case, we're going to use the advanced DNS editor. No matter where you're pointing your domain, the first step is to actually log into the domain registrar where you actually registered your domain name. So I'm registered mine on Hover, so I'm going to use like Hover for my examples. But no worries if you're using GoDaddy or any of the hundreds of other, domain registrars out there. Basically, what you're just going to have to do is just Google, like GoDaddy, where do I change my name servers, and their help doc for that will come up. So the navigation, in your particular situation might be different, but it's really, really easy to find those help documents on those domain registrars. Okay, so let's jump into scenario 1, which is where my emails and my web hosting are at the same place. So all I have to do is change my name servers. I'm in Hover. I have purchased the domain name Zwegan.online. My kids, they call me Zwegan instead of Mom. I'm not really sure why this occurred, but anyway, I'm rolling with it, and I bought the domain name. When I first bought the domain name, it always puts the domain registrar name servers in, so we have to update those because I'm hosting the emails and the website at Zebralove Web Solutions. So, Hover has a very easy interface to use. All I have to do is just click on the domain, and it's very easy to find the name servers. Depending on where you registered your domain, there might be a few extra clicks. But let's go ahead and change these. So my name servers, I got them from my hosting provider. Usually you can just log into your account and see what they are. If not, you can always go ahead and contact them, and they should be able to give you what they are. They usually start with NS1, NS2. You can have you can have quite a few of them. Usually you have at least 2. So the 2 name servers I'm going to enter are zebralovehost.com, and we have an NS1 at zebralovehost.com and an NS2 at zebralovehost.com. And then I'm going to click Save Name Servers. Yeah, and that's basically it. That is a very easy thing to do. It does seem like it's something that people feel is very technical, but it is definitely something that you should be able to do on your own. Okay, so let's jump into scenario 2, and that's where our emails are actually in a different location than our web hosting. For example, if I'm using Google Suite or Microsoft 365 for my emails, and then I'm hosting my website at someplace like Zebralove Web Solutions. So for this example, we're actually going to need to find the advanced DNS editor. And so obviously it's very easy to find here in Hover. I really like their interface. On some others, you're going to have to go and get their help doc to figure out where you navigate to find that. And you see that we come here and there's a couple of A records and there is an MX record and there's like a C name record. So we're going to actually update these. So the A record, that's going to indicate where your web hosting is going to go. Okay, so let's do the A records first. So again, this is where the web hosting is. So I'm just going to come over here and click edit. Notice that we have 2 host records. So we have a little asterisk. So that's for our www. An asterisk is basically a wildcard. That's really important to have there. Otherwise, if you put in www.zwegan.online, it wouldn't go anywhere if we didn't have this host record in here. And the other one is a little @ symbol. And that just basically means like the domain. So that's a symbol that means zwegan.online. There are some instances where they don't support the little @ so you actually have to type in zwegan.online. So just note that if like it's not accepting a little asterisk, you would just like throw in the whole domain name there. But still fairly easy. So we're going to go ahead and edit the value for the IP address, and I got my IP address from my web hosting provider, which I am. So I'm going to go ahead and type in my IP address here. Note that like IP addresses, they usually have like 2 or 3 numbers followed by a dot. This is typically what an IP address looks like. All right. So I can save my changes here. Now there's another thing here that I didn't change, which is TTL. That actually stands for time to life. That's basically how long the change is going to take to propagate over the internet. So in about 15 minutes, my website will be available. So it is important to note that once you change these DNS records, they're not always gonna you're not gonna see that change like that minute. It's gonna take a few minutes usually. Generally, it doesn't really take more than a couple hours. I've seen it take up to 8 hours, but that would depend on what value is in this TTL field here. Great. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and edit the MX records. I'm going to use Google Suite as an example, mostly because their MX records are always the same. So because this first record is in here, I'm just going to go ahead and edit the one that's currently in there. And so, you know, when you're setting up your email, they're going to give you like a printout of like what to put in for these values. And so you should just definitely contact their customer service if you were confused about what to put in. Yeah, so we just kind of just like, you know, get the list of MX records. We're not making stuff up here. We're just putting in what they give us. And the priority for that is 1. Again, our time to life is 15 minutes, so we have about 15 minutes before we can see those changes live. I'm going to go ahead and delete this C name record. That's something that Hover uses internally for its emails, and we don't need that record there, but we have quite a few more MX records to put in. Sometimes you have one MX record, sometimes you have multiples. In this instance, there are multiples, so again, I'm going to put the little @ symbol as our host, and the priority I see is 5 for this record. And so let's go ahead and type in what these records are. All right, here's another record down. And so we got a few more to add here. They actually have quite a few. Making sure I'm putting MX record in all of those instances. Okay, so we are done with that. And so the next step after this, I would recommend, and by the magic of video, it's going to be 15 minutes later, and we're actually going to check on MX Toolbox to make sure that we have added these in correctly. It's really, really good to double check that your MX records are valid because these are extremely easy to screw up. One really thing that's important to note that is if I want to use the advanced DNS editor like we did, I actually have to make sure that these name servers are pointing to hover. Because otherwise, ICANN's just going to go to the domain and see that these name servers are in here going to Zebralove or ZebraloveHost.com, and so it's actually not going to look at the advanced DNS editor. So because I use the advanced DNS editor, I'm going to change these back to hover. Obviously, this is just an example, but in the real world, it's really important if you're going to use the advanced DNS editor that your name servers are actually pointing to where the domain is registered. So you're going to use the default name servers here. Okay, so now I'm here at MX Toolbox, and we're going to go ahead and check that I put in those MX records correctly. All right, we'll just look them up. This is a really great tool. But yeah, look, they're going to Google. It's saying that they're going to Google, and your email service provider is Google Apps. So now I've double checked that, and I can sleep at night knowing that my email records are going to the right place. All right, so now that we can see, I have my quickie website that I did for Zwegan.online to show how to point the domain to the web hosting, and then my emails are now going to Google Suite. All right, we are done. Okay, so that's it for video 3. This video was a little bit more technical than I've gotten before. So, if there's any part of this video that you need clarity on and that didn't make sense to you, definitely leave a comment below. I'm happy to make another video, maybe explaining some certain aspects of the process. I don't have a problem with doing that at all. Yeah, so just let me know what you found confusing. If your scenarios are different than the 2 that we talked about, I would definitely get a web developer involved, or even just call your domain registrar, or use their chat. Typically the domain registrars have some pretty good tech support, so if you want them to enter in the records, or you just want to make sure your records look valid, you can go ahead and double check that with them. So anyway, I hope you have a wonderful day. Talk to you soon. Bye.